should you quit your job when you're on the fertility journey? We're going to be talking about all things work today when you are trying to conceive and giving you some strategies to help. So it's not necessarily always about quitting the job, but are there things we can do with the current job to actually make it better suit you while you're on the fertility journey? So excited for you to listen to today's episode. Let's go. Hey, Sam, excited to have you back on the podcast.
And thank you for having me.
Awesome. So today we're going to be digging into do you really need to quit your job when you're on the fertility journey? And we see this a lot actually with our clients that not to say we're asking people to quit their job, but sometimes, and I've been in this situation before where you're like, why am I still at this job? Like I have outstayed my welcome and I dread Monday mornings. Like, please, I remember saying to someone, if I come back again, like poke me in the eyes. Why am I still here? I just was not happy at it. And, I said, that's not productive for the company, nor is it great for your soul as well. So not to say you need to quit your job, but it's like today we're going to be talking about how your job may be impacting your health, and then we're going to give you some strategies on what you can do to actually change your current job. And if it is for you, maybe the job right now is no longer serving you, looking for something else. So sometimes we feel we're on the fertility journey that we stay at a job way longer than we normally would because we're either they have the benefits they want. We don't want to change jobs when we're right in the middle of the fertility journey. What if at the new job we get pregnant? So then we may overstay when we really were ready to leave ages ago. Just the fact that if we've been on a longer fertility journey. Anything you wanted to say there?
Yeah, so much. I think that, for a lot of us before we are on the fertility journey, our work is our baby, right? We've strived so hard if we went to college or how we arrived at this job. Most of us at this time when we're ready to start our families, we feel secure in that job and we feel like we've quote unquote made it to where we wanted to be before we started having children. And so it has been our baby for years. And now we're actually trying to create an actual human baby. And you might start to realize where there's things in your day-to-day life that you're not taking care of yourself because of this job. And it happens all the time, and whether you work remote or in person, which we know that we have a nice hybrid of that now, across the world. It can still mess with your self-care, your balance, your boundaries. And we get a lot of overachievers here, a lot of type A's that are really driven, and so they do sacrifice themselves for their job. And that literally can physically be damaging your body in many ways. And a lot of people have a hard time recognize that, especially when they're on the journey and have great benefits, or think that their package, their benefits package is exactly what they need for this chapter in their life. But are you using your benefits package?
Absolutely. So the first one we say to me, like if you're working more than 50 hours a week, like we need to do a
Yeah.
little reset here. And we see people 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, like 90. I remember coaching one couple like 100 hours a week. Like
Yeah, it's
where is the
crazy.
baby fitting into your life? Like that is just like burying yourself in your work. So to really the 50-hour would be the max, but kind of looking at an ideal of 40. And so what's the conversation there? And many times it's
Yeah.
kind of like, well, who's telling you to do these extra hours? Overtime is you can't force someone to do overtime. Obviously, many jobs kind of will sort of expect that you're the last one in the office, and if you were to leave early, who are you're going to be passed over for a promotion, or who are you to say that you want to just work 9 to 5? That's like a career you know
Yeah.
suicide, I guess. So but right now when we look at our priorities and look what's right for you, how do you look something around the hours piece? So what would you like to say on that one?
Yeah, quality over quantity, right? And I know that there's a lot of great businesses out there that have recognized this for years, and actually, there's been published articles on them. But you get more out of your employee and yourself if you're self-employed if you work less. Like it's proven. It's scientists have looked at it, psychologists have looked at it, that if you work less, you're actually more productive. So are you actually getting 50 hours, 60 hours, 70 hours of work done? No, you're just a person in a space, right? Like your brain cannot physically work in that way for that many hours at a time. Even 8 hours is a stretch, right? Like I believe that the most people can get the most productiveness done is in a 4 hour stretch. And so being able to recognize, like, okay, so what are my goals actually here? What is my job? Where am I need to be more creative? Where do I need to problem solve and think? Think about when you do that best. Is it the beginning of your day or is it when you've worked a 10-hour day? Right? Because you're not going to be able to solve that problem at the end of the day the same way you would if you tackled it the next morning. The next morning, you're going to be sharper and faster, and your brain's going to be moving quicker because you just had a great night's sleep, hopefully. And you're going to be able to actually get the task done in a shorter time. If you try doing that task, at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, it's going to take you longer to do it, and there's more chances of mistakes. So, just working more hours does not mean that you're actually contributing more to your business or to someone else's if you're employed, right? Like you're still just a body that's just taking up time, and it's quantity over quality, right? Like being able to recognize I can get this task done in 4 hours versus, oh, I've got to work for 8, 10, 12 hours.
Yeah, because that analogy of work smart, not hard. People are like, but I'm doing both. I'm working smart and hard. But then really how,
Mhm.
how is that serving you? And where
Yeah.
where can you make some tweaks to actually put yourself first? And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But so what we see also around with couples on the fertility journey is the skipping meals where you're like, okay,
Oh,
I'm just gonna have my meal, you have your breakfast at your desk, you have your lunch at your desk, and sometimes you may even have your dinner at your desk. And if you're working at home, you could have that too. But like skipping meals or even not even taking time to move away from your keyboard if you are at a desk job or if not a more of a flexible job, you get to walk around. Maybe you're not taking the time to take your break and skipping meals. And how is that? Like I think like this is not to shame or beat anybody up. It's like we all know that we need to, the foundational pieces of fertility is important to reduce our stress, eat a healthy diet that's personalized for you,
mhm.
taking out those top allergens. We've done a lot of podcasts on that. Getting the right kind of sleep and eating a diet again that's right for you. And as skipping your meals, you probably know you don't feel that great when you skip them, but it might be just in this vicious habit of going, oh, you're buried in your work and you look up and like, oh my goodness, it's 3 and you haven't even had lunch or breakfast.
I feel like there's a lot of culture around like almost glorifying that too. Like, oh, I'm tough enough, or I work hard enough, or I'm dedicated enough that like work comes before these things. And it's like, okay, so you're killing yourself, right? Like, if you were skipping your meals regularly or eating them quickly at a desk or eating them on the go, you're not giving your body time, like your stomach, enough time to make the proper stomach acid for that food that you're consuming. You're not chewing your food. You're going to end up with belly aches and upset bowels. You're not going to know when your body is trying to tell you that you need more or less. Your cortisol is going to be confused. Your body's going to think that you're starving it, right? Like there's all these crazy different things that are going on in your body when you do that. And I hear it so frequently, especially with breakfast and lunch. Breakfast, it's like, oh, I didn't get up soon enough. And now I'm hustling out the door and I don't have time for breakfast. Black coffee is my breakfast. I'm like, okay, so just add acid to your belly. That sounds great. Right. And then they're like, oh, well, lunch, I had this meeting and then this happened and this happened. And now it's like 4 o'clock and I am so hungry that I'm eating everything in front of me because your body is in panic mode, right? It is running from that lion, right? And so that happens when people make food choices that they don't feel great about. Maybe they eat some foods that are really reactive because who cares? McDonald's is right there, right? And so it's like skipping one meal or eating at your desk, like those just it leads into more and more negative habits towards food that just add, stress on your body, both mental stress and physical stress.
Agree. Yeah. And it's interesting. Then the blood sugar is like,
Oh
crashing
yeah.
and stabilizing your blood sugar. It's a theme we talk about every week in our clinical meeting with our team. Like blood sugar is crucial to keep stable. And if you've skipped those meals and then your blood sugar is crashed down, you're hangry and you got mood swings and it can impact your sleep. You know, skipping meals, although, sometimes you can talk about, fasting, but if you're on the fertility journey, that may not be the wisest choice.
Mhm.
Well, definitely isn't the wisest choice. Okay, so prioritizing work over time with your partner. So yeah, we see. So this is, it's interesting here where we're more connected. We all have our phones and our laptops and all this sort of stuff, so we can be reached at any time. Um, And we think that we need to respond to someone. If you have a boss that doesn't respect boundaries, that maybe, you've got to respond to emails late at night, or when you're out with your partner or out with your family, and the sort of chain to the phone, to the laptop, and not even, and maybe both partners are doing this, that we're both stuck in
Hmm.
this work cycle where he's working, she's working, and we haven't even prioritized each self, because the work always wins. So.
There's so many couples that I've personally worked with here at Fab Fertile that like they're like, oh well, I stopped for dinner. And like for some of them that's 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I stop for dinner and then I just get back on after, or I stop for dinner and we watch a show and then we get into bed and I have my laptop on my lap and I'm like, great, just where you want it, right above your sperm. Sounds wonderful. But then they're also like, that's usually when you're going to be intimate with your partner, right? Like that is the most common time for you to, check up on each other's day and to reconnect and to activate your parasympathetic nerve system and really be, in this moment. And that's not going to happen if you go, okay, work, eat dinner, work again, try to go to sleep. One, your sleep is going to be absolutely crap because you're stressed out and you didn't give yourself time to slow down. But also like, where's your time with that partner? Where's that time to connect, to be intimate, to be vulnerable with each other, to decompress from your days? If you're just filling your evenings with more work, you're taking all that time away from both of you.
Mhm. And then, like you talked about, not getting enough sleep. So, because you're up late with the
Yeah.
laptop or the phone, getting all that blue light, which gives you that second wind. Next thing you know, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm up till 1 or 2 in the morning working on a spreadsheet or
Hmm.
working on a pitch or whatever it is for work, and then that's negatively impacting your sleep. And
Yeah.
then also it could be waking up during the night ruminating or catastrophizing about something that's going on at work because we haven't really set better boundaries on that. So yeah, the sleep piece, we work for months with couples on sleep, and many times work can be a reason why it's not optimized.
Yeah, absolutely. And if, like you mentioned, like if your brain is still going, you might hit the pillow, you might feel like you pass out immediately from pure exhaustion. But how sound is that sleep? Does it wake you up? Are you actually reaching a REM state because your brain is going so fast it hasn't had time to slow down and decompress? Like what is that actually doing to your sleep quality?
Yeah, and then a lot of people, when they come to us, they may not be drinking enough water, and then maybe during the day, not taking time out to have those. If you're skipping your meals, you may be skipping your water break too. I think
Oh
many of
yeah.
us will have like a glass or a stainless steel water bottle by our desk, but then are we actually drinking it? Because I remember years and years ago, like I remember doing something at work where they were checking to see, it was a scale and you can see if you're dehydrated, and they're like, you're so dehydrated. And I was like, and I thought I was healthy at that point. I was like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? I'm dehydrated. I drink water. And I think at that point I was probably having like 1 to 2 glasses a day. And I remember thinking, like, I don't have time to pee. Like, I'm not gonna pee every hour. That's insane. Or even when I was there, I'm like, can I
Yeah.
pee? Can I pee faster? Like, this is taking too long. Obviously, we know
Mm.
it's crucial to make sure we're hydrated for the sperm to make it to the egg for our cervical mucus.
Yeah, I remember one of my first clients here was really dehydrated. It was a guy, and we got him drinking more water, and he's like, "Wow, I can think more," like And I was just like, "Yeah, that's what it does, right?" Like it was really cool to like watch him just feel like, "Wow, this is having a massive impact on how I feel. Like my muscles feel better, my brain function is more, like everything was different." And it was like he had water next to his desk, like you said, most of us do, but are you actually sipping from it? Are you drinking it regularly? Or are you just chugging that coffee cup after coffee cup after coffee cup? Because if you're, your water next to your coffee, which one are you going to choose, right? If you're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, chances are you're reaching for that coffee, which is dehydrating. And so even if you're drinking water, are you doing other things to, fight against that? And so yeah, we definitely see lots of chronic dehydration with our overworkers.
Mhm. And then stress to the max. I've been in jobs in the past where you're like, oh my goodness, this thing is just like consuming me. And yeah, you think about it night and day, and you're working weekends, And no one really like nobody cares when you're like, all I do is work. Oh, really? Like how boring. But it's so common, right? For many of us to be extremely stressed in the job that we're in, and we're not even able to see actually how negatively that is impacting our health, because we might have been in that, fight or flight state for years. And it might just be we're used to going at 100 miles an hour all day long, and then usually it's sort of a health crisis that makes us stop and pull back. And right now, when you're on the fertility journey, your body is trying to tell you something, and it might be for you that this job is, no longer a good fit, or there needs to be some really, strict boundaries that you need to set on it to recognize that, oh wait, this stress that I'm experiencing at work from a toxic boss, toxic coworkers, all sorts of other things going on, that, work culture can really, a lot of triggers and a lot of, stressors at work, obviously.
Yeah, I really think that this is one of the foundational ones because this is something that we can notice and feel quickly in our bodies. As like, wow, how stressed this job is actually making me. And I know for myself, there was a job that I was actually fired from. It was one of the best gifts of my life, and it was because it was physically killing me with the amount of stress that was happening. It was a combination of not having the right pairing with the supervisor, to unrealistic expectations, to me just not having the passion and the love for it as I thought I once had. And I was working, morning, noon, and night, and I was like not getting to the gym anymore. I wasn't drinking the water, I wasn't eating the meals, and all of that was just compacting with more and more stress. And then I was like, oh, but I'm not performing as well as I should. And I kept remembering this message in my head, but like, this is the job that you like worked so hard for. You had finally made it. You had the 401k, you had the good PTO, the insurance is great. When you get pregnant, this is an awesome maternity plan. Like that was all the things I was seeing that I wasn't giving myself permission to recognize that, like, okay, well, a kid does not fit into this life. Right? My husband doesn't fit into this life. My dogs, like I get stressed out about letting my dogs out because I was working from home then. And it was like, I need to be able to let my dogs out. I need to be able to lift my body and walk around. I need to be able to go to the bathroom and not worry about someone pinging me. It's not good for us to try to like pee really fast, right? Like that's going to cause pelvic floor dysfunction, which we don't need on top of everything else. And so I do think that all these things that we're talking about are all lead to this intense amount of stress. And it's usually something that other people, our family, our friends can pick up on. But we need to, as a culture, stop normalizing and accepting it because it isn't normal. We shouldn't be stressed out like this. Like we're not supposed to be constantly running from the tiger.
Yeah, I had a job too where I'm like, "Give me the package. Could someone just give me the
Yeah.
package?" And I'm like, "If you're waiting for the package." Anyways, I was in HR for many years, and the package came, and I was like, "What the hell? You gave me the package?" Then I was like, "Oh, sir, you
Hmm.
wanted the package. Be happy." But that job, I really liked that job until I didn't. It was
Exactly.
involved a lot of like downsizing with a whole entire staff. I remember like at that point I had like cystic acne kind of on my chin because I was so
Yeah.
stressed about, like, people had been there for years and years, and we were like packaging them off, and it was just like a really stressful environment. The management team was, everyone was miserable. All we did was sit with
Yeah.
each other all day long and commiserate, and like we would have some good laughs and stuff like that. But it was just a bad culture where we're all like, I don't want to be here anymore. Take me away, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So it was miserable, and that, my health at that point took a complete nosedive, like a lot, so much stress. And at the time I would have probably said, again, my typical response, that I wasn't stressed. But how ridiculous. Of course I was. You don't have all these different,
Yeah.
skin issues for me, and my jaw was tense and a lot of headaches
Oh,
and all
yeah.
these different symptoms. And I was like, oh, I just thought that was, give me some Tylenol, throw on some cream on my face, and maybe I got to go drink or something. Not that I was a huge drinker, but like whatever we use. Or at that point, actually, it was shopping. Woo! How can I go do some shopping? I need some retail therapy to shop away
Yeah.
my woes. And I had a lot of clothes at that time, and a lot of shoes, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, how I was coping.
I felt like my shoulders were in my ears and I had this constant, like, mild grade headache. And, it's just like all these little things that like I didn't notice. And like I also was working on an exit strategy. So I was grateful when the package came as well. But like I also was just like this ego hit
Oh
until
yeah.
I had to be like, wait a second, like you needed this to happen. This is like, I can look back at it now and be like, this is one of the best career things that happened, because that's not where I needed to be, not where I wanted to be. I wasn't serving them, they weren't serving me. And we did for a moment there, and it was great, but then we didn't. And it was really important for me to recognize that that job was not going to define my success.
Yeah, another one we hear a lot is like, "Oh, we don't have any time." Like, "Oh, I've got no time for friends, family, social life, for I don't have time for self-care." It is all in the
Yeah.
busy with the air quotes there that we're so busy, but really it's like the job has like sucked out our soul and we've just given our life to
Mhm.
the job and all the
Yeah.
things that make us a well-rounded, balanced individual, it's there's like it's kind of teetered the one that all over here instead of like, having it's important to have all those different parts of that either it's a teeter-totter or like a wheel where you have different parts of it and neglecting yourself or your relationship with your partner or your social life or your joy or maybe you're going to church or a spiritual practice, all that because 7 days a week, we're,
Yeah.
busy at the job.
Yeah, so I see this in a lot of ways. One thing that comes up to mind like immediately is this one woman we were working with her at Fab Fertile was talking about how like she had been putting these blocks on her calendar for lunch and for getting up and walking, like really great goals, and I was really really proud of her for time blocking them on her calendar. But once someone said like, oh, I need to meet, then she would just accept it, and so she wasn't like sticking to her boundaries. She was setting them, but she wasn't holding people to respect them. And one of the examples I gave her was like, okay, so what if that was your 6 months old pediatrician's appointment? Would you let someone book over that? The chances are is you'd say no, right? Like that's going to be a different experience for you. And most people say, oh, well, that's different. How is this different? Because you now are doing things, you're setting goals to prepare your body for pregnancy. And if you're here, there's likely that it didn't come really quickly. You didn't get pregnant the first month of trying. So you know that these things like eating your food and walking and slowing down your body and taking time for yourself are vital to your health, but you're letting someone say that it's not vital and but letting them book over. So, it's not only about having time at the end of your day, but like being able to say, this is my lunch break. I can meet with you after. Like that's such an important thing to work on and to notice when you're letting people step over your boundaries or when you're deleting that block off your calendar yourself.
Yeah, it is to look to see how does your baby fit into your current life? And if it's like 50 plus hours a week, not spending not honoring the time that you need for yourself, what are some tweaks and changes
Yeah.
that you can make right now? And it's not about saying goodbye to your job, maybe later,
Mhm.
but like at this stage, it's how do we start with, eating the 3 meals a day, so sort of blocking out the time. And if you're having your breakfast at work and your lunch at work, which I know I used to do that for many years, I would do that. How do we do that? Either, going away from our desk, going outside, getting together with a coworker, but not actually like working physically while we're eating, and blocking out the calendar. And if someone's trying to send, it's interesting with the meeting piece too, just with that, where to see to yourself, do I really need to attend that meeting? Or was I just an optional or, as a nice to have? Do I really need to be there? And to be a little more, it might be the culture too that you're in where you're like, okay, you're invited to all these different meetings, but like,
Yeah.
digging into that a little more to see, do you need to be at every single one? And are there
And
ones that you can say no to?
yeah, and ones that could be emails and ones that could be half the amount of time. I had a call earlier today, and everyone on the call, including myself, is at a point where we're really respectful of each other's time. And we got everything accomplished in half an hour. And although we had booked ourselves for an hour, we are just like, okay, great. Email me if you need more. But like we got through our agenda. How awesome, right? Instead of being a culture that says, oh, well, we said we were here for an hour, we're going to spend this whole hour here, or we said we're going to be here for an hour and it runs over into your lunch break or into your travel time to an appointment, like really recognizing like, hey, I have a hard stop. This is my hard stop. I'm going to tell you at the beginning of our call, and I'll be 100% present with the time that I have, but at the end I need to bounce.
Yeah, and the more because in the beginning when you say that, it might feel a little bit, "Ooh, okay, we usually always go like 20 minutes over," and you're always like, "Ah, why aren't we done?" And you're like silently going, I'm over this." Or you could be the one, maybe you're the one, it's your meeting and you're running it late, and everyone else is like, "When are we gonna be done?" So to be able to honor your boundaries and the time side of things, and is there anything on those meetings that you can set more boundaries on? Is it better to be an email? Does it need to have, is it better to be 15 minutes and to actually stick to the time to see what sort of, efficiencies can be improved there?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I feel like we've kind of gotten to a point in our conversation here where we can really talk about some of the things that people can do to have their job go from killing you or really attacking your fertility journey to supporting your fertility journey. And I feel like we've shared some of those already here, but like for me, it's exploring where are you struggling with it? Is it sabotaging your time, your time after work, your meals, and really starting to like, all right, if I'm not eating my meals, then I need to block time on my calendar. And maybe for your lunch, because you've had nothing, maybe you start with 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be a full hour. It doesn't have to even be a half hour. Can you sit down intentionally for 15 minutes and eat your meal without answering an email?
Mhm. And then, like we said, setting boundaries around some of the meetings that you are currently having. Like, looking at
Yeah.
your schedule, what are the must-haves, the nice to haves. So what can
Yeah.
you either, also that strategy of automate, delegate, delete. What's something you can automate,
Yes.
what's something you can give to someone else, and what's something that is like, why are we even doing this meeting? Or why do I even do this report? Or why do I even, maybe we don't need it anymore and we can say goodbye to it. So that can be
Oh, I
something.
love that.
Yeah, you can do that probably quarterly to look at stuff just to make yourself a little more efficient.
That reminds me of not answering your emails at every moment, right? Like that's something that I think so many of us have struggled with and some bosses expect, but be like, in order for me to be the most efficient, I need to be able to focus on a task. And so I'm going to check my emails when I come on, before or after lunch, and before I sign off, instead of throughout the entire day, because like you're not going to be as productive. And maybe that means setting an automated message like, hey, this is, I'll get back with you in this amount of time, depending on what your career path is. But there's definitely some other boundaries that you can put in for yourself.
And then having breaks to go for a walk or to drink some water, so you put in those bio breaks during the day where it's like, okay, I'm gonna get up and have my water, have a little lap around the office or a lap around the house, depending on if you're still at home. Um,
Yeah.
to put those in, because many times at the end of the day, if you haven't eaten, you haven't had any water, maybe you didn't even go to the bathroom. And then again, how productive are you? And then you're not, then it's like you haven't prioritized your self-care and your health, and then we can set vicious cycle, beating ourselves up, going, "Why do I always put myself last?" Where it's like, schedule it in the calendar.
Yeah, I particularly would recommend if you have a time and day where you're slumpy and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go run to Starbucks right now or Dunkin' or whatever your, whatever your poison is." Um, Take that opportunity to maybe go for a walk outside or go sit under a tree or, anything that you can get some fresh air through your body that's gonna have just as much power without the negative effects of that afternoon caffeine. And then maybe ask your body, do I need a little protein snack? I often need, I need, yeah, a healthy fat and protein usually in the afternoon. That's how my body works. And so making that space to give yourself permission, to give yourself a natural pick me up because it's normal, right? That's why they have siestas in every other country but, but the, US. And I'm curious how the culture is in Canada.
That's the same as
Sorry, you
here.
can speak. Yeah, exactly. Same. But like we don't have that. But that's what our bodies usually need is they get a little tired. They want a little nap. And so what can you do to honor that?
Yeah, and then, it's interesting when you're at work, you sometimes around 4:30, you see the people that have children, they're like, "See you later, gotta pick up my children from daycare," busting out, like, just, like, remember them, like, rushing out with all their bags, all this sort of stuff, "Sorry, can't stay for the meeting, bye-bye," and you're like, "Wait a minute, what?" So, you can do that too. Just because,
Yes.
you can leave. You can leave, and you don't need to say what it's for. It's no one's business where you're going, what you're doing. It's a simple, "Goodbye, I'm leaving." They make a big production of like going, don't want to be late for daycare. But when your baby comes, you'll need to get home, go for, get the person that's, providing care, whatever it is, you'll need to do that too. So let's start that now.
Exactly, build the foundation. I know I really love Jenna Kutcher's story. She is a really incredible social media coach, and I adore her story because she talks about when she was trying to get pregnant, she was having recurring miscarriages, and she took this moment to really visualize like the current life that I have with my husband, the house that we live in, the jobs that we have, our work life balance. Does our kid actually fit into this space? And visualizing where they did and where they didn't, and what needed to change and what needed to be celebrated. And in doing that, really, really start to create the space and the foundation for a life that fits this kid. Well, part of that is going to be like, you're not going to want to work likely. I don't want to speak for anyone, but like, you're likely not going to want to work till 8 o'clock every night and miss bedtime. So, what does that mean? Well, maybe that means start right now figuring out how to be home for dinner. I know one of our couples did that right before they got pregnant. It was like a big deal to the wife. The husband wasn't prioritizing it. And then he heard her and understood, like, hey, when we have our kid, yes, I'll pick them up from daycare, but I want you to be home shortly after so that you can be present for dinner. That was an important value for her. That was a big rock for her. And when he was able to hear that, he could make adjustments and change the culture of his work environment before the baby came when he was sleep deprived.
Absolutely. And then using that vacation time, that time off, you have it, you deserve it. More so in the States than in Canada. I know there it's like still, in Canada for mat leave, we get like a year. I don't know what it is in the States now, maybe like
Ugh.
3 months, maybe 6 weeks sometimes. Yeah, like here it was going to 18 months, but it's a long, obviously a longer period of time. And vacation, probably more vacation than the States, but I think a similar kind of policy. But it's interesting to see, are you the kind of person that you're like, oh, I didn't even take the vacation and it wasn't able to roll over. I lost it and I just worked 365 days, 52 weeks of the year, day in and day out, because I was so busy doing this job and burying myself in the work. And I didn't have
Yeah.
time to take a vacation. If that's you, kind of like, well, it'd be interesting, is it everybody has time to take some time off and you deserve to take time off for yourself.
Yeah.
So if that's some sort of limiting belief that you perhaps have that, if I left, the place would crumble, no one will be able to do, I just come back to more work. And some of those things, while they may be true, to be able to serve yourself and to be more productive while you are there, it's so important to take that time off and actually, hide away the phone, hide away the laptop. I'm sitting here saying this as someone who runs their own business, and I'm going to tell you right now, this little thing will just take you over. And I have to
Yeah.
set my own boundaries on that, and work
Yeah.
to delegate and to work on that. So that's like for me as a work in progress to make sure that, well, yeah, when I take a vacation, I'm actually taking it off, and to have systems in place and things like that. So because it can be challenging, but the taking time off, you deserve it.
Absolutely. You're worthy of it regardless of all the other factors. Like that is something you're absolutely worthy of. You're worthy of rest. And I think it's really remarkable. I don't know the current studies, but I've looked at them before. And there's so many unused PTO days across the states. Like it's absolutely absurd. And some people just don't do it. They're like, what am I gonna do at home? Do a staycation. Like it doesn't matter what you do. Go pitch a tent in your local campground or stay at home and read that book you've been wanting to read. It doesn't have to be an elaborate vacation or your cousin's wedding or something like that. Like you deserve to take that time off. And what's even more shocking is a lot of companies started to transition over to unlimited PTO, and their strategy was because less people use it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me. Like if I had unlimited PTO and I was not working for myself, like I would have used it because going back to the quality over quantity, when you take time off and come back, you are fiery, you have fresh ideas, you are ready to go. It is good for your brain, it is good for your creativity, it is beneficial to your company to do that. And so yes, absolutely, take it, take it, take it.
Yeah. And then asking the hard question here, is your job supporting, the lifestyle that you desire? Is it have you outstayed your welcome? Are you like every Monday going, are you kidding me? I'm going to die if I go in there. Like I've been there. If that's you, and obviously you're here because you're on the fertility journey to say to yourself, And it might be to say to yourself, how do I reframe that the way you look at it, that right now this is paying for you to prepare your body for pregnancy. So if you're here obviously listening to get pregnant naturally, so preparing it, making those targeted diet and lifestyle changes, or maybe you do have an IVF that's coming up, so it's paying for that, so you can reframe it. Are there boundaries in the specific job you're currently in to you can speak to your boss
Yeah.
about, maybe you have more appointments, maybe you want to make sure that you're focusing, you're leaving, if you work 8 to 4:30 or 8 or 9 to 5, that you're actually leaving on time, so making sure that your boss knows that you're going through this. Many people haven't
Yeah.
even told their workplace about what's happening, right? And it's not to say, either it's an IVF or an IUI or you're trying naturally, this can be very stressful on your life. And so having your
Yeah.
employer know that you're going through this, many employers obviously have insurance, and they have kind of plans to help. But even if they don't, um, you have to weigh it if it feels right for you. So you've got to determine if sharing your journey with your boss is going to serve you. But it's a lot of times then it can take the pressure off of, why are you leaving early for this, or what are you doing here, blah 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 blah. We feel we need to tell everybody, like, it's no one's business. It is no, you need to tell an employer like what it is you're leaving for. Like, you just say it's a medical issue, you don't have to tell them.
Yeah. I think it's really important to like ask yourself, are you living to work or working to live? Right? What is your priorities here? What are your values? What are your big rocks? Because sometimes that job might have been there for that season and that's awesome and it's not anymore. And maybe you can't leave that job right now or you don't want to leave this job right now, but what would it be like to vision board? Like, this is what my dream job would look like. This is what I would love my day to look like. And maybe that means the next time you have a meeting with your supervisor, you're saying like, "Hey, in order to make this job continue to work for me, like these are the hours I'd like." I used to work at a nonprofit that I absolutely loved working for, and I was working 9 to 5. And I was like, 8 to 4 would really serve me a lot better. And it was like such a little switch. And I talked to my supervisor, and she's like, "How about 8:30 to 4:30?" And we did that for a while, and then I eventually got to move to 8 to 4. It was such a small little ask, but it made my life work better. It worked better for my values, my priorities. And so being able to spend time with that, like, is there little things that could change? Is there a vision board that you want to create to imagine this job that you maybe want after you come back from work? Maybe you take the maternity leave and then you're like, I'm going to switch after. No, whatever it looks like for you, you deserve a job that makes you excited and happy. And I don't think many of us are meant to do the same thing forever. So give yourself that permission to visualize and dream and make space and put out into the universe that, like, I want something different.
Yeah, I love the visualizing piece to really see what, because sometimes we don't realize what it is we actually want. We're just in a job that right now it's paying the bills, and
Yeah.
we may have liked it at a time. Maybe we've overstayed our welcome, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm here because of, I can't leave because of benefits, because of, why would I change right now? I'm trying to get pregnant. I'll leave after I, have the baby, and so we end up staying. If we're on this journey and it's taking longer than we thought, here we still are. So it is to be able to visualize what you want it to be, and what are some tweaks that you can do with the current job. Be boundaries around, there's things you can do right now to make the change that you don't even need to probably ask your
Mhm.
boss for, like just to changes around meetings, around select, making sure you're entitled to take your lunch. You don't need to work through your lunch. You don't need to accept meetings through lunch. And so what would happen if you decided to maybe just start with the lunch piece, if that's not somewhere you are, like if you're currently not having lunch, have lunch, and schedule that, or making sure you take the bio breaks, or so starting small depending on where you are. But if you're already, the job's okay and you're fine with where it is, you can reframe in your mind kind of what the job is doing. It's paying the bills. It's serving me right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. I have a job that is able
Mhm.
to provide for you and your partner, or if you do have children, as you prepare to expand your family. So to be able to look at the things around there, and there's some gratitude around the job you currently have, and then that opens up other things, and then also takes the pressure off you of always trying to strive to the next thing, and beating yourself up if you're like, I'm so over this thing.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, any final thoughts today, Sam, on our topic of do you need to quit your job when you're on the fertility journey?
Yeah, just be honest with yourself. Have honest conversations with both yourself and your partner, and recognize that, just because it's not working for you now doesn't mean you're a failure. You can make tweaks, or you can totally, be radical and change it up altogether. You know what's best for you and your family. And the biggest thing is just to stop ignoring the red flags that are being sent to you. And take care of yourself, prioritize yourself, because at the end of the day, in your obituary, they're not going to be like, oh, wow, she was really dedicated at working, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Like, that's not going to be what people remember. So, like, think about that for a second and instead be like, all right, people are going to remember that I was kind and loving, and, that I was dedicated to my family and my friends, and try to make sure that that's fitting into your life and that you remember what brings you joy, because you deserve joy.
I love that. Yeah, it's not like, "Oh my goodness, she worked really hard and didn't take her lunch and didn't take any vacation. Yay, you." And, and explore that if that's something like, you may feel, um, maybe admired, or some sort of piece of you that likes to know that, you're the last one, you're always the last one at the office and the last one standing, and you're always, available at any time, and because maybe you like to have people coming to you, but how, is that still serving you? And to recognize that you can do things a little differently, ask for what you want and visualize what you want, and you can actually happen. So thanks again, Sam.
Thank you so much.